in terms of you guys structuring your exit, what kind of things did you try to sort of change in the company or do to the company to sort of get it ready for an exit?
You might give us a little feedback in your company, like time in the market.
Okay, we founded Three Melons in December '05. At that point, there was no video games industry in Argentina, so the approach was we wanted to create an international company. Something related to that's core from the founding is that we always, or at least myself, I was the initiator of this, I always saw Three Melons as a company and the founders as just shareholders into that, and that took roles in there. So I think the preparation, it has to be in the DNA of the company. It's a company. If it's going to be venture backed, it has to be ready for a buyer or an IPO eventually. So not many emotional ties to the company. Of course, there are. I mean, you work there hundreds of hours per week. So setting up as okay, it's a company. It's our ship, but it's not a part of my body. So we started that, and we created video games for big media companies and advertisers for advert gaming sort of things. Once we got better at that, we started creating games for entertainment, and recently we launched a game called Bola, which is a football game. It's on Facebook and on Orchid, and so we rose money in the middle of the burst in the beginning of '09 to make this switch from a service company. We make games for Lego, for MTV, for Mattel, for Warner, for Disney, and a few other companies. It was great, but it's a service business, and we wanted to do something that had more potential. So we switched to a hybrid model, which was very tough to maintain both of them. But we launched the soccer game, and in the midst of preparing the new stage of fundraising after we have proven the concept of the soccer game gaining traction in the markets, we just bumped into the company that acquired us, and we didn't look for this sale; it just happened. Of course, we were acquired recently by Playdom, which is one of the leaders in the social gaming space, versus other industries. Even in consumer entertainment and consumer internet, it's amazing how 3 or 4 players consolidated really fast and rose a lot of money and rose a lot of traffic. And if you see now the top 10 or top 25 apps on Facebook, games are either Zynga's, Playdom's, or EA's PlayStation, or Crowdstar. So in this path, we got together and saw there was much more opportunity, and it was going to be a much faster turnaround if they acquired us, and we're part of the family now, right? And so that's that. I'm going to tell more about the process in a second, I guess. But getting ready is detaching emotionally. Our company was an Argentinian company. We were in the process of setting up international offshore, not offshore, but UK, US legal thing, to raise money from firms in the US. I was planning to move to San Francisco probably a month ago, and it didn't happen. But I was on a part of the MCP program, but also part of doing roadshow on my own as well. Someone out there asked how to be in contact with VCs or with investors. Basically, you go out there and sell. It's just the same thing as getting customers, right? You profile them, see who's who, see what kind of deals they're making, what kind of deals they won't be making, see who their competitors are. If their competitors make deals in that space, they probably want to copy them, and go out and sell, and go to conferences, meet up. In the US, it's very common to just bump into people in events, and that's actually how we sold our services as well. And all our legal stuff was up to date, or almost up to date. It was like 90% well, and again, all our employees we paid our taxes, and so we were a very lean but also audited company, and so we were ready to go.
So, Simon,
If I could just compliment, I think this is probably the most, out of all the questions that I've heard today, this is probably the most, in my mind, one of the most important, if not the most important. And just a couple comments. So, the process of selling your company begins at the very beginning. And let me draw a few distinctions here. When someone's making an investment, they want to know that you're there for the long haul, that you're dedicated to building a standalone business, that you want to take, your goal is to take the company public, not just flip the company quickly, okay? So first, as an entrepreneur talking to venture capitalists or private equity people, you want to make it very clear that you love the company, you're dedicated to the company, and people can tell when you're lying, so make sure you're doing something that you really love. But anyway, so you want to convey the message that you're a missionary and not a mercenary. And what that distinction, I guess a lot of you nodding your heads are probably familiar with, is that a mercenary is doing something for money. A missionary does something out of belief and faith. And so you want to convey the fact that you're doing something out of belief and faith. So that's the first thing. Second thing is you want to make sure that that you're open to eventually going public. Because everyone wants someone. You have to have this alignment of interest with your investors. That said, how do you actually sell a company, and what are the key factors in it? I would say that it's never too early to start the process that you described, which is, having strong corporate governance, having, your bills paid, and not having lots of lawsuits, not having lots of strange, sort of hidden liabilities. Because when you finally do get to the moment where someone's interested in acquiring your company, all this dirt that's been swept under the proverbial rug will come back to bite you. So where the real value creation is in building a company, and building a company that's got strong corporate governance and other things in place. And why is that so important? Let's go back to the question we said earlier. A lot of the potential buyers, in an acquisition, they don't know anything about Latin America, so they're or other emerging markets. So they're scared. And what you have to do, if you have to give them a sense of comfort in order to move forward. So how do you give them a sense of comfort? One thing you do, and that I've noticed about the Endeavor entrepreneurs, is that you have to be able to speak a common language. So if you speak English and they speak English, if you speak French and they speak French, that's the first thing towards building trust, is being able to communicate. And I think another thing that's really important is finding common interests. So I remember when we were selling Aquan, our portfolio company, to Google, I talked with so the way that Google acquires a company is they send the smartest engineers at their company to do due diligence on the engineers at the target company. And they see, okay, are these guys good or are these guys bad? So I knew that we needed to find some common ground with these engineers. So I started talking to them about Star Wars and Harry Potter. And it totally worked. So again, it doesn't matter if it's Star Wars and Harry Potter, or if it's football, or if it's art, or race cars, or what have you. You have to find common ground, because again, it's being able to communicate, so speaking the same language, and it's being able to build that sense of trust. And then along with that, then you have these things of corporate governance, which again, once you get to that phase, people will feel more comfortable moving forward, knowing that the formalities are in shape.